Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into a really fascinating case out of Hartford, Connecticut. It's a story about how millions of dollars in school construction projects, all fully approved, got stopped dead in their tracks by just one person. So just picture this for a second. You've got these multi-million-dollar renovation projects for schools. They've gone through all the hoops, they're ready to go, and then boom, everything just stops. And it wasn't because of a funding cut or a failed vote. It was a single unilateral decision that left the whole city wondering what just happened. And the stakes here were incredibly high. Community advocates in Hartford were quick to point this out. We're talking about students in buildings with leaking roofs and bad air quality. We're talking about good union jobs that were suddenly put on ice. And maybe most importantly, a massive 95% reimbursement from the state was now at risk. And that is the big question, right? How can one person's decision just override a whole series of official green lights? To figure that out, we've got to first understand how these projects got approved in the first place. To really get the controversy here, you have to see just how perfectly everything was lined up for these projects to succeed. This wasn't some rushed idea. It was the result of a long, careful process. You know, each one of these 6 school projects had to run a gauntlet of approvals. First, the Board of Education said, hey, we need these repairs. Then, a special committee drew up the blueprints. After that, the city council gave the local funding the thumbs up. And then, the final, huge step, the state agreed to pay for almost all of it. Every single box was checked. And I mean, they were literally at the finish line. The construction bids were in, the school building committee had already approved the contractors for the jobs, the engines were revving, ready to go, and then nothing. Silence. Okay, so if everybody said yes, where in the world does the mayor get the power to say wait? The answer isn't in some specific law, but it's actually baked into the very structure of Hartford's city government. It all starts with this concept called home rule in Connecticut. What this means is that the state constitution basically lets cities write their own rule books, they're called charters, to decide exactly how they want to run their own affairs. And Hartford's rulebook, its charter, creates what's known as a strong mayor system. Now, that's not just a fancy title. It means the mayor is basically the city's CEO, with a ton of control over all the city departments and how things get done. And this right here is the absolute key to understanding the whole situation. It's the difference between the power to approve and the power to act. Think of it this way. The city council's job is legislative. They approve the plan. But the mayor's job is executive. They're the one who has to actually carry the plan out, and that's exactly where the friction happens. So, this is how it all went down. The mayor's power here wasn't some kind of special veto. It was simply his executive control over that one final critical step, signing the construction contracts. You can have all the approvals in the world, but without that signature, the project can't go anywhere. It's stuck. Now, the mayor's office, for their part, sees this differently. They're framing it not as killing the projects, but as a responsible pause. They argue it's just smart management to step back and create a bigger, citywide strategic plan before spending all this money. And that kind of high-level management, well, that falls right under the mayor's executive duties. So, this power clearly exists. But the big question is, does that make it unlimited? Is it absolute? The short answer is no. Our whole system of government is designed with checks and balances for exactly this kind of situation. So, what are the options? How does the system counterbalance this kind of executive power? Turns out there are a few ways to push back, both politically and through the courts. As you can see here, there are several formal checks. The city council can put on a lot of political pressure with public hearings, or in a really extreme case, even start proceedings to remove the mayor for neglect of duty. The Board of Education can appeal to the state, and citizens or even the contractors themselves could file a lawsuit and ask a judge to force the mayor to act. And all of that brings us right back to the situation today, and the very real stakes for the city of Hartford, for its students, and of course, for its taxpayers. Let's just talk about this number again, 95%. That's how much of the cost the state agreed to cover. This is basically a massive grant, and if these projects don't get done, Hartford could lose that money, forcing local taxpayers to pick up a much, much bigger tab down the road. And this isn't an open-ended problem. There is a very real ticking clock. According to the agreement with the state, 3 of these schools have to start construction by the summer of 2026. If they don't, that funding could just vanish.
At the end of the day, a system like this is built on the idea that everyone has to work together. The only real path forward here is to find a way to balance the mayor's goal for a long-term plan with the immediate and already approved needs of these schools.
So, this whole situation in Hartford really forces us to ask a pretty fundamental question about how local government is supposed to work. It puts the tension between a leader's power to plan and their duty to execute right under the microscope, and it makes you wonder, in a system of checks and balances, where does the duty to act outweigh the power to wait?